We're going to show you how to literally double your retirement income and at the same time reduce your retirement risk. Yes, it's possible. We're going to show you how. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Control and Compound with Darren Mitchell. I'm your host, and joining me today is Christina Wyatt, wealth coach at Control and Compound Financial. Christina, how are you?
Hey, Darren. I am doing great. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Awesome. Before we get started, I just want to remind our listeners that if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, that you want to hit subscribe and give us that 5-star review. And if you're listening on YouTube, make sure that you hit that like button, you subscribe, and you hit the bell button so you always know when there's new content coming out.
Thank you. Okay, so today we're going to give an actual example. So for those of you listening, we'll walk you through the numbers. For those of you that can watch on YouTube, be a good one to watch on YouTube. So when we talk about a couple things, we talk about retirement risks. Now, what are retirement risks? We're all going to have retirement risks. What are the big ones? Well, the big ones are, did you save enough money? Okay. What's the rate of return going to be in your retirement? What's the volatility of that rate of return is going to be? What about inflation? What about taxes? What about interest rates? What are they going to be? What are taxes going to be when you're retired? What if you or you're supposed to get sick and you need long-term care or nursing care? What about how are you going to pay for that? Longevity is probably the biggest risk. What if you live too long or outlive your money? But today we're going to focus on that volatility because this is a huge one, especially in retirement. So Christina, let's talk about volatility. When we talk about volatility, what really do we mean by volatility?
When we're looking at volatility, in your portfolio, we're talking about those ups and downs in the market. So we see it with the stock market. Every day you're seeing those ups and downs in the stock market, real estate market as well. Historically, looking at the stock market, at the markets, they go up, right? But as they're going up, there's those dips that you see, and those dips create volatility. Your returns going up and down. Now, you only lose when you take money out when you're down, right? In those markets. When you're younger, you've got a lot of time. You've got time on your side. So let's say you have some down years. Well, you can make those up later. And that volatility is really not going to impact you as much as someone that's in retirement. When you hit retirement, volatility becomes a huge risk because if you need to take out in a down market, which, you in retirement, you got to live. So you've got to take your money out. And if your assets are all in the stock market and the market's down, well, you're going to have to withdraw in a down market. And that is going to impact your retirement savings greatly. You're going to see huge impacts. So when we look at retirement risks and what we're talking about today and how we like to look at, planning for retirement is mitigating those risks. How can we reduce those risks and protect our retirement income? Maybe even double it is what we're going to talk about today. So reducing that risk of volatility is so important when you hit those retirement years.
Yeah, and just to give a simple example, like let's say you were contributing to a group RSP plan or you're saving every month into the stock market for some savings, and great, the stock you bought was $10 and then that stock went down to $5. Well, if you're still buying every month and you buy at the 5, as long as it comes back to 10 and then goes up, well, the down market didn't affect you. It might actually been a good thing in the long term, assuming the end result is the same. However, what about retirement? If you have a stock that's at $10, it goes down to 5, back to 10, and you don't sell, no big deal. You buy, even better. But if you sell when it's at $5, and that's a reality of retirement, people need income every year. So if they sell in a down market, it's almost impossible to recover from that. So taking money out in a down market is what we want to avoid. And to do that, we're going to talk about one more thing, and that's the uncorrelated asset. So when we talk about an uncorrelated asset, it basically means, let's say you're invested in the stock market. Well, if the stock market drops, this uncorrelated asset would not drop. Or the stock market and the real estate market dropped like in 2008, an uncorrelated asset would not drop, not correlated to those things you're invested in. Cash is one option for an uncorrelated asset. We like infinite banking policies. We think is the best uncorrelated asset. And if we look at 2008, when the market crashed, real estate crashed, all these whole life plans paid around a 7% and change dividend. If we look at 2022, when the market crashed and the real estate market crashed, we're looking at dividends of 6% plus for all the whole life. So uncorrelated to the market. Anything to add, Christina?
Just that, an uncorrelated asset creates a volatility buffer. And a volatility buffer is exactly what we need in retirement to reduce that volatility risk. So I think we want to get into an exercise where we show exactly how impactful taking out in a down market can be, and how we can reduce that risk by using a volatility buffer, which is the uncorrelated asset, right?
Yeah. So let's dig into the example. So we're going to pull up the rates of return for the S&P 500 with dividends. Now we're choosing this index because it was the greatest rate of return, and we're choosing 1970 to 1999, a 30-year return, because that was really the heyday of the stock market. The stock market did exceptionally well over that 30-year period, and that's what we want to look at. If it can work well when the market's really well, it's going to work even better when the market's struggling. So from 1970 to 1999, the stock market S&P 500 with dividends averaged 14.73. Incredible rate of return. But that's the average, Christina. What are we more focused on, especially in retirement?
Always the actual. We want to always be dealing with those actual rates of return, because the average isn't going to give you the real picture of what it is that you have, what those returns are creating.
Okay, so let's pull it up, and let's pretend you retired in 1970 and you had $1 million. Now you could have saved this $1 million, you could have sold your business, you could have sold properties, whatever it is, you have $1 million. So on this $1 million, you put in the stock market in 1970 when you retired, and you knew, you had a crystal ball, you knew for the next 30 years, the average rate of return is 14.73. And in this example, this person that retired in 1970, they're going to withdraw $100,000 a year. So that's the income they're going to live off. They're going to withdraw $100,000 a year, and they're going to keep their money invested in the market. So if we look here using the 14.73 average rate of return, how much money do we have after 6 years? We're up to almost $1.3 million. Money, the balance is growing each year because we're taking out 100, but we're earning more than that with that 14.73. So at the end of the 30 years, this individual is taking out $100,000 a year for their income. And what's their end of year account value, Christina?
Just 14.4 million. No biggie. There's a smooth 14.4. That is an amazing retirement right there.
Yeah. Can you imagine retiring with $1 million, spending $100,000 a year, have a great income from 1970 to 1999, and you die and you leave a legacy of $14 million? Think of what people could do with that money, what your family, future generations. It would just be literally the ideal retirement.
Thanks for listening so far. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone to subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating on your favorite podcast platform. Hit the button on YouTube, and more importantly, if you're finding value from this content, reach out to us on our website, controlandcompound.com. But that's not what's going to happen here.
No, because we don't get the average return. So now those actual rates of return we had, let's copy and paste those. So from 1970 to 1999, we're going to copy the actual rates of return, because average isn't what you get, actual is the key number. So if we paste those actual rates of return in there, so these are the real rates of return, no fees, S&P 500, 30-year great run. So now this tells a completely different story. You start with $1 million, and the first year you earned 3.48. The next year you were 14. The next year you were 18. Things are going well. After 3 years, you still have $1 million. But now, what happens in year 4? Now the market drops in year 4, 14%. It drops in year 5, 25%. Well, now after 5 years, you've got $500,000. So we talked about stress-free retirement in the first scenario, what an ideal retirement. This is full-on stress. And these are real numbers. These are the actual numbers from the S&P if you had $1 million in 1970. So you're down to $500,000. Now you're stressed out. Hopefully, though, things will improve, but we see we get a couple more negative years. So now after 13 years, you actually run out of money. Picture that. You thought 14.73 was going to leave you $14 million legacy and spend $100,000 a year. And now in 1983, in this example, 13 years in, you're negative. You've lost money. Your entire retirement savings is gone. Is that a stress-free retirement?
That is a very stressful retirement. And the scary part is there's lots of people running their retirement numbers based on these average rates of return, right? That's the scary part, is that this is real. This is what actually would have happened to this person had they retired in 1970 and used that average rate of return. And to run out of money 13 years in, we really hope that he was good to his kids, because he or she was good to their kids, because they're probably moving in at that point. They're completely out of cash, which is a very scary thing in retirement.
Yeah, and this isn't the typical retirement projection that an advisor will show you. An advisor saying, what do you think we're going to earn in retirement? X percent, and you put that in, and they put the same rate of return. But again, in retirement, when you take money out in a down market, we saw in this example, you're out of money 13 years in. Okay, so what does this have to do with an uncorrelated asset and an infinite banking policy? So in this example, we're going to assume this individual had $300,000 of an uncorrelated asset. Cash value life insurance is the best example. And the volatility buffer rules kind of state, in a down market, don't take money out. Okay, well, that seems pretty simple. Don't take money out. But in retirement, we found most of our clients in retirement, they do like to sleep indoors and they do like to eat. So in retirement, you're going to take money every year. As well, some of these retirement plans, you're forced to take money out. But in this example, we're going to say, okay, we have $300,000 in an uncorrelated asset. And when are we going to access that uncorrelated asset, Christina?
We are going to access it after we have those down years. We're going to follow the rule. Do not take out in a down market. Now, we don't know it's a down market until the end of the year. So at the end of each year that we have those down market returns, we're going to take from an uncorrelated asset. So let's just say, for example, in year 4, we have a negative 14.42. We don't know that until the end of the year, but the following year we can say, listen, we had a down market. We're going to take from our uncorrelated asset. So here we're going to take our 100,000 from that whole life policy. We're going to take it from the whole life policy, and then the following year, in year 5, we're going to have another bad year, negative 25%. So again, we don't know till the end of the year. The following year, we're going to say the same thing. We can't be taken from the stock market portfolio. We have to take from our uncorrelated asset, so we don't take out in a down year. So again, we take from our uncorrelated asset. Once those market returns go back up, we're good to go, right? We can take from an up market. That's exactly what we're intending on doing. So the next couple of years, we're back up and we're good to go. We'll take our 100,000 from there. Once we hit this year in year 8, we've got one more negative return coming up here, and we still have 100,000 in our whole life policy. So again, let's follow the rules of the volatility buffer, and let's take from our whole life policy instead that next year. What happens when we do this, Darren?
So that's 3 years we took money out in uncorrelated assets. So when the market was down, we said, leave our stuff in the market, don't sell. We'll access money from a cash value life insurance policy or an uncorrelated asset to give the market a chance to come back. Just by doing that 3 years, so having 3 years of income in that uncorrelated asset, now our money lasts the full 30 years. We can go back to withdrawing the $100,000 a year from the stock market portfolio, and at the end of that 30 years, now you leave $2 million behind and you never run out of money. That's how impactful the volatility buffer is. You're going to have volatility in retirement. You got to start planning now to have that uncorrelated asset grow to a point that you can access the uncorrelated asset in the down market.
100%. And this is a stock market example, but when we look at the real estate market as well, it follows the same principles, right? You do not want to sell in a down market when it comes to real estate too. Well, if you needed to sell a property in retirement to pay for that retirement income, and it's a bad year, don't sell it. Take from your uncorrelated asset, use those funds for that year, wait it out, and then sell when the market comes back up. Because like we've said, historically the market comes back up. As long as you're able to hold on through those trying times, you will come out on top. It's making sure that you're protected with these buffers to make sure that you can, outweigh those bad times.
Love it. So we've increased our retirement income substantially. We vastly reduced the risk of running out of money because we solved or mitigated that volatility risk. Then at the end of the day, we leave $2 million behind. Christina, it's too late when you're 65 to think of, oh, I need to start a whole life policy and build up an uncorrelated asset. You've got to start thinking about retirement while you're still working, and that's the importance of starting a plan, systematically saving to an uncorrelated asset. Not only is it going to give you all the advantages we talk about in other podcasts, access your money, multiply your money, have a death benefit, all those things, but in retirement, it's going to incredibly help you in retirement. And it's something we don't talk enough about in this industry. People talk about all the benefits of infinite banking, but they don't really talk about retirement. And this is just one example of many. I think I list 5 in my book, Be the Bank, that you can use to increase your retirement income and reduce your retirement risks. Love the volatility buffer, Christina. For those people that want more information, please reach out to us. We're happy to have a call at any point. Christina, anything before we wrap up?
I think we've covered it, Darren.
All right, volatility buffer. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you always know when new content is coming out. For more helpful tips and tricks, visit our Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok pages at Control and Compound. If you want to reach out to us directly or work with us, visit our website at controlandcompound.com. The links are in the show notes below. See you next episode.